Check. We'll turn this up a bit. I've used this for years. People ask about it all the time. Regular non-scented candle. Wire groove in it for the drumstick. Makes it sticky. Don't need tape. And as your hands sweat a little bit more, it gets it a little bit stickier. You don't want to use scented because of the chemical, whatever the scented stuff is. If you were to wipe your eyes during a show, that perfume will burn your eyes. So unscented candles, dollar store. Okay, so this kit's all mic'd up. You don't need the best mics. This tom and these rototoms. Of course, this is in the way, but I'll move that in a sec. And this are CAD, part of those CAD kits. I bought a whole kit used. The rest of the mics on this kit for the snare tom and these two floors are Wharfdale mics. I don't even think you can get them anymore. They were a cheap kit also. They came with a couple of overheads and the kick drum mic. Kick drum mic works great. They all work great. CADs are a little bit less quality. These Wharfdales, if you find them, they're built like tanks, but I like them. Great for down here, and I use them live for quite a while too, but I was getting into recording my original music rough drafts on this kit, so instead of just using a regular video recorder mic, I wanted to mic it up, and I just run it through a old ancient Mackie 1604 VLZ board. Great board for doing this shit, just screwing around, making drum videos for online, and I don't use any effects most of the time because this basement has on this side here with all the drums stacked. I have a bunch of drum sets around. There's an actual natural reverb that kind of happens as it rings through all these drums. So I came across that by a fluke. So anyways, I do use a couple overheads. Nothing brand new, but all the stuff used, dirt cheap. You can buy the big mics with the baskets. So, so you don't get vibrations. They're all on elastics. You can buy them dirt cheap in the pawn shops. Buy all the cheap stuff just for doing this and get the best sound possible from using the basic stuff, and you'll be happy. I've been using this stuff for years. In my recording studio, it's a different story, but you don't need the best to just get your ideas or some drum beats that you're working on that you want to document on video and have fun with. So this is an experiment for me. I bought a cheap old ribbon mic, and I bought it for the ride. I was finding the overheads weren't picking up enough of the ride, and you can't really turn the overheads up because it'll bring these cymbals up. So I'm using a ribbon mic on there, and I'm just playing around with different positions to see how it works. So I'm doing a few tests just to see if I can hear the stick definitions. I don't want it bright. But I was losing a bit when I was playing jazz stuff. So I'm just testing it out to see if it's bleeding, causing some fading or phasing. Excuse me. Figures you start talking and all of a sudden you start coughing. So right now I can hear this in my in-ears pretty good. I'm trying to not play hard. I'm trying to just use my fingers. If I need volume, I whip the stick a bit. I've always been known for playing like this, across the first joints, nothing touching in here. That's how carpal starts, and I don't like to play hard because I don't want tendonitis. And I've been playing since 1977, and the only issue I ever had was in this arm with the last band I was playing because they were so fucking loud and I couldn't get them to turn down. So the only way to hear my drums was to play harder, and I was doing that for about 6 months, and the band's been together for a while but had member changes, but the volume just escalated and I could feel I was starting to hurt myself. So I said screw this, changed a lot of my in-ear monitoring, and was basically going to get out of that band situation because it's no fun playing music hurting yourself. It's just stupid. It's like, why do that? So the band ended up folding anyways, so it was like the Holy Mary thing, like, thank you, good, and I can, heal a bit, and it did. It's right back to where I was for decades before. So if I do hit hard, I rim shot. I haven't played this kit in a little bit, so it's basically just whipping the stick. And trying not to hurt yourself, because it's no fun being injured and not being able to play. So why escalate the situation into being hurt? Try and get your brain wrapped around you do not have to play heavy. You don't have to. I know it looks great and that aggression sounds great on some stuff, but eventually your body tells you you're not going to be able to do that anymore. So you have to try and find a happy medium between hitting way too hard and too soft if it's not cutting the mustard on whatever song or band you're in. But if you're going to hurt yourself, find something else. Find another band. Lots of bands. Okay, so I'm a bit rusty. It's cold. We've been shoveling snow here for quite a while. It just never stops here. For some reason this year we're blessed with a lot of snow. So I got asked about how do you work on your hands being matched. Well, I'll be honest, I've never achieved that. In all the years I've worked on trying to make this hand be the same as this, equal, I've never attained it. I've tried all different kinds of exercises and nothing's worked for me. My problem is I have a slight nervous system glitch where I have the shakes. And you might see it sometimes when I'm playing. Right there, you can see it just a bit. It starts to quiver, and I have no control over that. It's been like that my entire life. But I found that when I started getting into a lot of really, really fast stuff, I could play it. But the shakes had some counter-progressive thing that caused issues with me to maintain very fast stuff on the snare drum and stuff. So I worked around it. I said, well, if I'm never going to be able to match my two hands, and like I say, I worked hours and hours and hours on this, trying and trying. Sure, both hands got better and the control was great, but it was never close enough to say, wow, that worked. And so I basically got frustrated with it. So I had to think of something else. So to make my left hand gain better control, but kind of fit a more real situation rather than doing Buddy Rich, million notes on the snare, in total control, because he had total control of what he was doing. I unfortunately don't have that 100%. Never will. So I'm now in my 60s and been doing this since 77, and practice on pads, electronics, nothing has brought it up to where my right hand is. And now that I'm getting older, things are I'm over that hill where things start to get slower. Anyways, so what I tried to do was come up with simple patterns, just as control exercises. And that's why you'll see me playing left-handed floor tom and a lot of things. I usually would have bongos here or something. I became a huge, massive fan of Dave Wackel, and while I can't play like him at all, some of the techniques that he uses, I try and incorporate into my own playing. There's enough Dave Wackel clones out there. I know I can never achieve that. So I have logic on my side. But I love playing drums. I don't have to be Dave Wackel's level to enjoy playing drums. But I love how fluid he is. He's got excellent creativity, dynamics. And when he got into the left-hand stuff back in the late 80s, I saw him first on, I think it was one of those talk shows, and he was on there with the Chick Corea Band. It blew me away. So I was a fan from that day on. Never heard of this guy before. And then from then on, I absorbed Dave Wackel. I get more out of watching him play than actually learning his stuff, because his stuff is, extremely complicated for most of us mortals. But some of the stuff, even though I start off playing traditional grip, like Wackel, I played for the longest time, but the nervous system thing that I have was creating issues where it was hard for me to keep aim when I would do this stuff. So I ended up switching all over to match grip, and I still have slight problems with aim. So And you may wonder, why do you use the small things? You have a problem with aim. Well, that's another work in progress. You want to be able to hit the target. So I'm trying to train my brain and this nervous system issue to work together to at least make things somewhat musical and trying to keep it focused. So anyways, basic thing that I do, I always do these small exercises with simple beats. And it was one of the things I learned early on. It's like, okay, I'm right-handed, but my left hand sucks. So basically try and play some of the stuff right-handed that you normally play right-handed, do the flip. Pretty basic. So what I started doing is like incorporating the hi-hats. So I pulse, do the right hand and the left hand. And this was helping me somewhat, but even now, right now, I can tell my left hand feels weaker. But I try and make the best of it. Now, my old bass player, he knew I was struggling with this. We're talking years ago, and we were together for 15 years. And he listened to the hi-hat like it was part of his DNA. So I'd be going like this. But he could tell the difference that I switched hands. He just knew it from listening. And so basically one of the Weckl things is the second stroke in one of his exercises. It's just the basics. So he would hit the hard first one with the accent, and then softer for the follow-up note. So, but for me, while this is easy to do, for this, my hand wants to do this. It wants to wander left and right. And I've worked on this for years and years, and I still have this wandering problem. It's tuned in a bit better. And I really have to be warmed up to basically fool the band and fool the audience. Right now I'm on the drum set cold turkey, no warm up. So I'm showing you the issue that I have, and there are other drummers that have similar issues that are not related to drum injuries. They're actually being born with this or developing it later in life. It could be anything like from MS to Parkinson's. We all find out these issues later in life. But for me, I've always had this issue. I was in a car accident when I was a kid in the 60s and had head injuries. And the doctors figure it's related to that, but who knows? It's always been there. So the basics like that, and then to switch it around. And I just got a lazy feel, just letting the snare just drop really. Sometimes do it together. So that's the basics of how I started to help work with this issue I have. So then with Dave Weckel, and then I discovered Terry Bozzio and his ostinato things, and that took me in a whole positive direction where I could utilize some of that live, but at practice it made it fun to do ostinatos and make all these weird grooves while doing a melody line with my left hand. But the best way to do it is just to start everything simple. Anyways, this mic stands in the way for me. So that's what you want to do. I found that trying to worry about the left hand and the right hand being the same and just work on snare exercises to work on that, I just found it was aggravating. And it wasn't aggravating because of the exercise, it was aggravating because I could not get my left hand to respond like my right hand. And as I went through years of it, I realized it was never going to be the same. My right hand always seemed to progress more than the left. And I would double and triple the exercises to try and do it, and it just would not work. So I came to the realization, so I have a problem that's not going to be overcome. Let's go with that in a different direction and see if I can just make this be an independent limb from what's going on over here with my feet and my right hand, but add some melody to it. Really simple things. And what I found was I enjoyed them more. I wasn't trying to compare it to my right hand, which for whatever reason it still has shakes too, but not as bad as my left. But I didn't have to worry about the right hand. Once I got my positions where I was memorized into this is where the ride is, my snare, floor, for the most part, I didn't have to look over there. I could focus with my left and just eyeball it to help try and aim it to make it musical and more precise. Speed was not in the equation. Not whatsoever. I find people that want to go for speed miss all the fun, fundamental stuff. They want to get fast no matter what, and then what ends up happening, they get some bad technique, and they get that bad technique really fast. So I realized that my issue was not a technique thing, but a health thing. So I had to change the plan. But if you have a bad technique problem, you can correct that at slow speeds. Basically, unthink what you did wrong, do it the right way, and work on your speed. But for me, it's more about being musical, having the endurance to play something more musical for a longer period of time. Like doing double strokes. Yes, I do all that stuff still to this day, part of my warm-up. My playing is based on double strokes and parallels. I love those rudiments and flams. I love all that stuff and still practice it. I'm not saying don't practice that. But for me, I was getting frustrated. It was like I had to find something for my left hand to do rather than always trying to compare it to my right hand. So my left hand, I just took it a different direction. And that might sound boring to you, but for me, it was a blessing because I looked at Dave Weckl and Vinnie Caliuto and Buddy Rich. They're my favorite players. Big Sid Catlett is another one of my faves from way back in the 40s and 50s. He was a technician for chops, but he played so gently and so gracefully, and he just made things feel good. And he was a pretty big guy. And I watched some of the videos from movie clips from those time frames with the Louis Armstrong band, and listened to the recordings, and he just made things feel good. So I kind of switched my direction. So depending on the band I'm playing in, like I was always into these really prog rock bands that did a lot of notes and lots of stuff, and all that stuff was great and fun, and it was a challenge, but it was hard for me to maintain. And now that I'm in my 60s, and I'm going back and see if I can still play some of that stuff, and it's kind of a rude awakening that I play so much different music over the years and kind of pushed that to the back because of this issue I had. But now with all of the rethinking of how I practice, I want to go back and see if I can play that stuff easier. And the funny thing about people, they always remember you in a time frame that was popular in music, and music's changed so much, and most of us musicians are trying to find a spot where basically find a spot to survive, because the music world is ever changing. So anyways, so I've been trying to go back with some of the Steve Moore stuff I used to play, and we used to do a whole bunch of instrumental stuff in prior bands, and so it's a bit of a challenge to actually go back. And I still move forward with studies. I still follow Dave Weckl and Vinnie Caliuto. Vinnie's got his own health issues, so so you don't see him as much in the public social media thing, but I still love his playing. He's got so much stuff to listen to that I'll be happy the rest of my life listening to these guys play. And there are other great drummers like Gavin Harrison. He's very musical too, and I bought some of his books, and I'm learning some of his stuff, and totally enjoying it. The book that helped me realize there was another way I could do things to help my drumming progress, but to keep me happy, and that was New Breed, the book New Breed, and New Breed 2. It's 2 books. It really breaks things apart. It's got a vibe like Terry Bozzio's ostinatos. Ostinatos were done by so many people, but the way Terry did it, his early instructional videos, I just found it enjoyable, and it was more like math to me, and I liked it because I like math, and then once you get the basics, then you start doing these little melodies, like if you're I just like the way he was subtly changed, to 3/4 and to 4/4, and then have the feet incorporate. I just loved it. It was just, I could play it slow, enjoy it, and I could at least keep control, and then try and work on speed. But that was like the least thing for my mind. It was like I wanted to make sure I could play it, make it musical, make it precise, and go from there. The unfortunate part for me in the last few years is I got into a band that was playing music that really, unfortunately, had nothing exciting for drums. So basically I was doing the it's a job, and I love playing, so I felt great that I was playing, but the music that we were playing was sucking the life out of my drumming. I was basically doing what other people wanted in music, and I wasn't getting my at least input. We're talking cover band. Excuse me. And that's a dangerous thing for a cover musician, because it no matter how much you practice at home, you can't place it in some of this music. It would sound like a hand grenade going off. And I'm a firm believer in playing for the song. So my input to change things, put what I like to call Glenisms in the song, were really subtle, either to do with a lot with hi-hat technique. I was very much into Stuart Copeland and like Wackel and Vinny with their hi-hat stuff. But drum stuff, you don't want a million notes flying and some of the stuff. And so it took its toll. So I was with the band for 8 years, and now I'm trying to kind of cleanse my soul out of some of that stuff. And I think if the band would have allowed more variety in the band and more input from all its players, I wouldn't have an issue. But I could feel my own playing. No matter what I practiced at home, when I went to play this gig, it brought it down to the point where a machine could have taken over and done what I was doing. And there's not much inspiration that way. So anyways, that's a short video of it. my issues, and they continue to grow. Like you can see, I get tremors, and most people don't notice it when I play live, but as I've gotten older, it's gotten definitely harder to dial in, and I don't think it affects my playing overall. I'm aware of it while I'm playing. My backup is I've always got the stronger hand to bail me out, and I learned to play I taught myself to play single-handed just to bail myself out in case something, uncontrollable happens. I also suffer from vertigo, which is another nightmare, and why I've always played with a back on my chair. I've had a couple of incidents where vertigo just kicked in, and it just felt like, I'm going to hold on here, kind of lean on the drums and finish the song, get my bearings. So all the fun musicians go through that are basically we're blessed with, and unfortunately can't do much about. So I know a few drummers with carpal tendonitis issues. I hate to say it, but you kind of brought that on yourself. I was aware of all these issues at an early age. I had a friend that taught me right off the bat. He taught me this grip. I was still playing traditional though, and I still play traditional quite a bit. But I can't play it really hard for like heavy metal and stuff like that, so I switch over. But I still utilize it. My faith in it is probably not as much as the match grip, but I have issues either way I play it. So, and that's something I have to deal with. But guys with carpal and tendonitis, I always tell them, it says, try and get that stick out of this area. And where, like I say, I've done in other videos of this, sometimes it looks like I'm hitting down in there, but there's always a space. It's never hitting there. Both hands. And so I've never suffered carpal or tendonitis. The injury here was just from playing too hard for my own good, using muscles wrong. So, and when your band doesn't listen to you, get out. It's not worth hurting yourself for to stay in a band like that. If they're not going to meet in the middle to help bring volumes down, fuck them. Let's just move on. Your health is more important than any of these guys, because they don't give a fuck, and you're hurting yourself. So there's plenty of bands out there. There's plenty of musicians to play with. If you're hurt and it's permanent, what are you going to do? You can't get any of that back. It's a done deal. You're screwed. So hopefully people you play with understand the situation and are willing to at least try and make things work for everybody and compensate a little bit. So there are some good people out there. Hopefully I find them. So for me, for the last, I took a year off from playing live bands, except for the odd fill-ins, but no regular band stuff. I wanted to come back down, and in my local area, that's why most of the people haven't seen me play, because I've been playing since 1977, so I've always been on stage. But I took a year off just to kind of kind of relax and reinvent myself a little bit, find some fun stuff to do. And I've had nothing but good time this last year and probably a couple of months. And so eventually in this coming summer, I'm going to get another band going, and I've already scouting out musicians. But right now I'm just having too much fun doing recordings and my own thing. So, and kind of self-healing and just advancing my own pace, my own way, my own directions. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope that helps. I got some videos coming up of me working on some of my new originals, so I'm going to do that on this kit just to work out some drum parts, and we'll see where that goes.